Good morning, University of Michigan. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Thank you all so very much. God bless you and have a marvelous MLK Day.
Good morning, everyone. How are y'all? I'd like to first thank Donovan for that amazing rendition of the Black National Anthem. And secondly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Victoria Wilson, and in the spirit of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and to recognize the sacrifices made by those who never had the opportunity to benefit from this institution, I will recite a land and labor acknowledgement. The University of Michigan is located on the territory of the Anishinaabe people. The Ann Arbor campus is located on land that was ceded through the Treaty of Detroit in 1807. Additionally, in 1817, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations made the single largest land transfer to the University of Michigan, ceded through the Treaty of Fort Meigs with the hope that their children could be educated. We acknowledge the sovereignty of tribal lands and the painful history of genocide, forced assimilation, and the displacement of Native communities that facilitated the establishment of this university. We affirm contemporary and ancestral Anishinaabe ties to this land, the profound contributions of Native Americans to this university, and the university's commitment to educate the children of Native ancestors. We further recognize that whether you are on campus in Ann Arbor or Ypsilanti, elsewhere in Michigan or the United States, we are all living and learning on stolen indigenous lands, many of which were toiled over by Black enslaved peoples. We honor and thank those Native peoples who still struggle for self-determination. The fights against settler colonialism and anti-Blackness will forever be inextricably linked. To the land, to the collective, and to its ancestors, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. At this time, please join me in welcoming Dr. Tabby Chavis, Vice Provost for Equity and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer.
Good morning, everybody. Woo! Hi, I'm Tabby Chavis, Vice Provost for Equity and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer and Professor of Education and Psychology. Before we begin, thank you, Tori Wilson, who is a third-year student studying cellular and molecular biomedical sciences and who is dedicated to reforming healthcare, for our land acknowledgement. And again, Donovan Rogers, a 2024 BFA theater graduate and founder of the DR's Laboratory, for opening our program with the Black National Anthem. Both of those are important recognitions of our shared history. Welcome and thank you all who are attending here in person and virtually as well to the 2025 Memorial Keynote Lecture for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Symposium at the University of Michigan, a celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. King. The university's public celebration of Dr. King's birthday began in 1987, following its establishment as a federal holiday in 1986, as one of the outcomes of strategic student activism and protests of the Black Action Movement. Since then, in lieu of regularly scheduled classes, the university has provided opportunities for educational enrichment, including spaces and resources for our communities to unite and celebrate Dr. King. The 2025 lecture is co-sponsored by the Office of Academic Multicultural Initiatives and the Stephen M. Ross School of Business. The MLK Planning Committee is a collaboration of staff and faculty from across the university, and it has been instrumental in making today's event possible. Please join me in acknowledging and thanking the 2025 Planning Committee members. Over the next several weeks, because our celebration goes beyond today, U of M schools, colleges, units, and their students, faculty, and staff will provide a range of exciting opportunities to learn about Dr. King's culturally significant contributions to advancing social justice. U of M's MLK Symposium is one of the longest running and most extensive recognitions and celebrations of Dr. King in the nation. This year's symposium theme, Restless Dissatisfaction, an urgent call for the pursuit of justice and equality, reflects Dr. King's call to embrace divine discontent. He urged us to resist complacency and remain dissatisfied with the injustices that persist in the world. This restlessness must drive us to challenge the status quo and actively build a more just and equitable future. Dr. King's words compel us to confront injustice in all of its forms, racial, economic, and social, and to bridge the gap between the world as it is and the world as it should be. Progress, he reminds us, requires continuous effort, courage, and vigilance. Your presence this morning, in person or virtually, is an act of this commitment. It reaffirms our shared dedication to advancing justice, equity, and inclusion. Today, we honor Dr. King's legacy not just in spirit, but by carrying it forward with urgency and purpose. Our commemoration of MLK Day offers an opportunity to reflect on the sacrifices and the contributions of Dr. King and countless others who devoted themselves to the pursuit of social justice. Here at the University of Michigan, we are fortunate to have so many individuals and community partners who embody this commitment to progress and transformation. In this spirit, many in our campus community's ongoing and new initiatives to create a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive university are rooted firmly in Dr. King's vision, a world that embraces equitable opportunities, draws strength from our diversity, and fosters connections rather than divisions across our communities. At this time, I'll move us along in the program so we can get to the good stuff, as we welcome the Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of Michigan, Dr. Lori McCauley. Thank you.
Thank you, Tabby, for your impactful words and for your vision and dedication in leading our efforts to make our campus diverse, equitable, and inclusive. I'm so pleased to welcome all of you as we honor Dr. King's legacy of moral courage and divine discontent with injustice. In his Nobel acceptance speech, Dr. King spoke of accepting that highest of honors at a moment when millions still fought for basic dignity. He refused to let even his remarkable achievement dim his urgent sense that more work remained ahead. Today at our university, we must maintain that same restless spirit. Our country has made great strides from the time when young Black students were met with violence for simply trying to attend school with their white peers. And yet we have ample daily reminders that racism and inequality still infect our society. From prejudicial attitudes to systems that continue to injure people of color and people who are perceived as different. The struggle for the harmonious, equitable civilization Dr. King envisioned must continue. No matter what your role in this struggle, I hope you're thinking about how to broadcast your efforts and successes. I believe, as Dr. King did, that there is a nearly universal human impulse towards charity, kindness, and fairness. For some people, it may be hidden or look very different from your own, but crossing those bridges is essential. Connecting with people whose ideas differ from our own does not mean surrendering our own values. In fact, I believe it means rediscovering the essence of our own values in order to speak them more truly and universally. This is especially important when our values are under scrutiny, and doubly so when they're subject to attack. How does this idea that we should proudly triumph our efforts cohere with restless dissatisfaction? If we follow Dr. King's example, the answer is simple. Our achievements should fuel rather than forestall our continued pursuit of justice. Dr. King taught us that constructive dissatisfaction, when paired with hope and nonviolent action, becomes a powerful force for change. He refused to accept despair, declaring that right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. Right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. In that spirit, let us transform our own dissatisfaction with injustice into determined action. Whether in our classrooms, research, or community engagement, we must keep pushing forward Dr. King's vision of a society that offers dignity, opportunity, and justice for all. As we gather today, let us honor Dr. King by recommitting ourselves to the urgent, unfinished work of building his beloved sense of community. Thank you. I'm now very pleased to introduce our student speaker for this year, Alexander Veal. Alexander is a sophomore in the College of Engineering, majoring in climate sciences and meteorology with a concentration in meteorology. His passion for weather and science inspires him to pursue a career in broadcast meteorology. His involvement with diversity, equity, and inclusion at U of M includes roles as a resident advisor, a Wolverine Pathways program alum, a lead scholar, M-STEM Academy student, and a LSAP ambassador. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, on such a momentous occasion. I have the honor of introducing our University of Michigan's 2025 MLK Symposium keynote speaker and moderator. Miss Erika Alexander is an actress, trailblazing activist, entrepreneur, creator, producer, director, and one of the country's boldest, most daring, and powerful voices. Recognizing the power of storytelling, Erika believes that though content must be entertaining, stories have tremendous capacity to create impact and meaningful social change. As a co-founder of Color Farm Media, she is on a mission to bring greater equity, inclusion, and diverse representation to both the media and electoral politics. Erika is beloved for her iconic acting roles, including Maxine Shaw in Living Single, which earned her 2 NAACP Image Awards for Outstanding Actress in Comedy Series. Detective LaToya from Jordan Peele's Get Out, right? Cousin Pam of The Cosby Show, her role as Linda Diggs in Wu-Tang: An American Saga, and her performance as Barb Ballard in Run the World, in which she was nominated for an NAACP Best Guest Actor Award. And not to mention her role as Miss Carmen in Earth Mama, which premiered in Sundance at 2023. Erika has recently stepped boldly into the arena of film director with her debut film, The Big Payback, co-directed with Whitney Dow. The film debuted at the Tribeca Festival and premiered on PBS on MLK Day in 2023. The documentary chronicles the story of the first reparations bill for African Americans in U.S. history. She's also esteemed as creator, writer, and producer of the Audible's Originals 2022 Best True Crime Series and DuPont Columbia Award nominee, Finding TAMIKA, and producer of the 3-time Emmy-nominated Best Documentary and winner of the NAACP Best Documentary, John Lewis, Good Trouble. A critical thought leader on racial and gender equity and leadership, she serves as a board member for One Fair Wage and is highly involved in social and racial justice organizations, including the Poor People's Campaign, Color of Change, NAACP, UNCF, among others. Our moderator, Dr. Daphne Watkins, is the Letha A. Chahida Collegiate Professor of Social Work, University Diversity and Social Transformation Professor, and the Professor of Social Work at the University of Michigan. Her primary area of studies include behavioral interventions for historically underrepresented groups, mixed methods approaches to research and context, and social impact leadership and organizational development. Centering the strategies for success among historically marginalized groups, Professor Watkins' research aims to maximize human potential, elevate social experiences, and provide equitable impact in communities and organizations. She is a community practitioner interested in developing efficient tools and systems that activate positive, strengths-based outcomes for those most in need. Ultimately, she is committed to conducting and mobilizing cutting-edge, use-inspired research to address important social concerns. Professor Watkins is the founding director of the Gender and Health Research HR Lab, the certificate program in mixed methods research, and the award-winning Young Black Men, Masculinities, and Mental Health, also known as YB Men Project, which leverages technology to provide mental health education and social support for young Black men. She teaches graduate level courses on research methods, social equity and equality, and community-based interventions. She also serves on committees and advisory boards aimed at improving men's health equity both domestically and globally. Please join me in welcoming Miss Erika Alexander and Dr. Daphne Watkins.
Nonsense. I saw on the back, I said, what is that light? Is that a chandelier? They said, oh no, they're candles. I said, well, thank you for telling your guests so I don't light it up the place like Michael Jackson. That's something else. It's beautiful. And I'm so grateful to be here. And Daphne, I know you're leading this, but I just want to say thank you.
For it.
Very satisfied.
Do my job for me.
I'm excited, and I got to meet Tabby Chavis, and Dr. McCauley, and Will Cap, everyone. The dinner last night was just beautiful. And to all the students that performed, thank you so much. Just extraordinary. And I'm excited to be at the University of Michigan. Yes. How about that? Yes. So thank you. This is a great day.
So Erika told me this was her first time at the University of Michigan, so
yes,
we have to make sure she comes back, right? Right?
I'll give you time to think about it. You know, you might not want me back.
All right, well, we're gonna just jump
She's gonna quiz me like SAT,
yes.
so I'm like.
I'm putting on my professor hat here, so we're gonna have a testing here. But no, as you can see, we're gonna have fun today, okay? So feel free to relax and just, we're gonna do the thing.
No, we're not gonna have fun. Stop lying to them.
We're gonna do the thing.
It's a very serious conversation.
But we do need to talk about some serious issues this morning. So,
okay.
But let's just go ahead and get warmed up. So I read somewhere that you were raised in Flagstaff, Arizona, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Now, thinking back to some of your earlier years, what were some of your earliest memories of activism and social justice in your family, in your community?
Yeah, I was born in Arizona, off Highway 66. Is it all right if I sing a little country? But don't want to be associated with those cowboy hicks. A Baptist daddy turned to Lutheran while mama paid the rent. We get old and wiser, but the money's always spent. That's my little piece of my song. People don't know I was born in Arizona because I played very, I just say, city-fied characters. And that's part of maybe even the conversation between what it is to be black. You were either from the South or the city, but no one ever imagined that you could be from Arizona until Waiting to Exhale. And so, but I am. And so both my parents were orphans. My mother's from Texas and my father's from New Mexico. And they had 6 children. I spent the first 11 years of my life in a hotel called Starlight off of Route 66 in Flagstaff, Arizona. They were traveling evangelists. My father was an itinerant preacher, Church of God in Christ. Y'all know that that's a heavy thing, but it's not known for having much salary or stability attached to it. And so both of them would go around in a car that she had, which was a used car, and they married 19 and 21 and do revivals and whatever, and live in people's garages or whatever room they had for those brief periods. And he might do a 2 or 3 week revival in the summer and get paid $60, you know. And after a while, with 5 kids, which is what he had when we got to Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, it's a very hard way to make a living. He was very charismatic, and he was also willing to, I guess, minister anywhere. So the Lutheran Church found him, discovered him, and gave him a chance to become a Lutheran pastor. And he changed his denomination and went to the Philadelphia Lutheran Theological Seminary. But to your point, and why you're asking is because I spent my whole life living what Tennessee Williams calls, by the kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
And so you learn to be maybe an advocate for yourself. Yeah. My parents were natural activists because when you're in Arizona, you're not just, you have no, you're itinerant, you have no home base. You're constantly waiting to be invited to do something or to participate. And we went on Navajo and Hopi reservations and with their Mexican neighbors and the German Lutherans that were up there. And so we were constantly in that state of having to communicate with a community, several communities. And after a while, I guess growing up, I thought of all of them as my community because I didn't make a distinguishing marker. I knew I was black, but to me, that was what it was to be in Arizona. So I think that had a lot to do with how I look at the world and more importantly, how I advocate, because it was very difficult for my parents. Yeah. And that's not just my story unique to me, it's a very black American story. Yes. To feel like you are maybe a little bit more homeless and don't know and maybe don't have family, consistent family to depend on or even ask advice. But there was a community of people and I think they moved us through, and it was very important because my father was also very sickly. He had a bad heart. He had his first heart attack at 35 and he would eventually pass away at 52. But if it weren't for the beloved community, then I don't think that I would be where I am right now.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're alluding to seeing the humanity in others.
Yeah.
Right? Being around communities who may not look like you, but then still seeing yourselves in them. Can you speak a little bit about that too?
Well, again, I'm from Arizona, and so I didn't have necessarily a lot of conversations about what it is to be black. And I think that the idea of blackness was something that you kind of managed to see that's projected towards you.
Yes.
Like, girl, what you talking about? And it was really like that,
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm nothing like that. I'm a little, more laid back and was different, but a lot of the images weren't necessarily what I was feeling. I saw myself in my teachers and instructors, and they were from everywhere. They were Hawaiian, they were, Asian, they were white, they were male, they were female. And that's what I'd like to say, that if you see anything in me that's just a little sort of maybe off here, it's because that's my background. Mm-hmm. And I think that you try to reflect like a mirror. Mm-hmm. A life well lived is that you do reflect that, and that you can see a lot of those, I can see a lot of those people in me. You don't know who they are, but they're there. Mm-hmm. I think to be a performer is to also be a sponge. And you have to go, and it's not forcing yourself, but you have to live beyond your boundaries, Mm-hmm. I was somewhere and they said, the border is also the horizon. So make sure you move beyond it because over on the other side is a version of yourself that is waiting for you to discover itself. And it may be in a synagogue, it may be in somewhere else, but you should seek to learn what moves others because it'll move you. And then I think that's really important, especially now that we create that atmosphere of connectedness by being curious about each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in Arizona, and then your family moves to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Talk about that transition. Was it culture shock? Was it?
It was crazy culture shock. I never saw so many black people in my life. I was like, where y'all been? For real? And it was something else. That's where if I learned about, many different cultures and a great, quilt in Arizona up in the mountains, I learned about how it was to be young, gifted, and black. That's the first thing they told me when I got to Leeds Middle School. You young, gifted, and black. Stand up straight. I was like, okay. I thought I was. But I shall stand straighter and lift my head. Because they were building the children up
Yes.
from the inside out. they couldn't just educate them. They had to make sure that they had a confidence in them because they knew what was out there. And I didn't know I needed that. I think my mother always said, you know, I told you all the time about history and things. Don't be so uncouth and tell people that, Erika, whatever. But I hadn't seen it like that. It was concentrated. And it was powerful to learn about history, not just Martin Luther King, Nina Simone, and the local leaders, you know, from their point of view. And it was actually shortly after I got there, I was 14, that I went to a performing arts school in the summer. My mother could afford to give one of us each year an extracurricular activity. In the summer, it was my turn. And she had noticed in 4th grade that I had done a play where I'd play a lawyer. I played a lawyer.
Ooh. Little foreshadowing there.
And the lawyer was, they were trying, I guess they were, what is it when you deliberate or whatever, Groundhog's Day. Whether it should be on the calendar or not. And my lawyer did not want it to be there. I lost that one, but she remembered that, I didn't. But I think she just, you know, and parents see things in you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so she got me into this summer class. It was a 6-week program, and in the 5th week of this, a movie came to town called My Little Girl. And My Little Girl was a Merchant Ivory film. And Merchant Ivory is a company that's not even there anymore, but they were known for really highbrow films with Helena Bonham Carter and those types of things. And it was an amazing thing, but there's a woman named Connie Kaiserman. It was her story, a white woman. She was a young woman who lived on the High Line in Philadelphia and had done some sort of internship at a foster home and befriended this black girl, this Puerto Rican girl named Joan Jerez. And they were looking for this girl, but they said, listen, you may never act, but you should all audition so you can have that opportunity. And my mother told us, if you have an opportunity, you have to take it. Right. And so I showed up. I was second in line, 5 o'clock in the morning, and that was good. It was a good thing I did because the line went across around the block on Broad Street and Masters several times because everybody from the tri-state area came from this huge open call. And they kept pairing us with people, and we kept doing this scene between these two girls. And then I finally got in a room, and they said, you know, we'd like you to read a different role. And they took away my sides, and they gave me the script, and it was the lead role. And I was disappointed because I'd just gotten that other stuff down. Dang, I thought I'd done something wrong. I had no idea really you know, what was happening. And then after several more auditions and about 4 or 5 screen tests, they brought me in a room and said, you got it, and it changed my life.
Wow, unbelievable. Wow. Oh, what a story. Well, you talked about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and as you know, we have a theme of restless dissatisfaction that we're talking about. And so his concept of this divine discontent calls for the restless pursuit of social justice and equality. Now, as an actress, creator, producer, multi-hyphenated professional, how do you use storytelling to channel this divine discontent to create impactful content that actually drives social change?
How do I use storytelling? Well, I guess you're like a surgeon. You have a certain amount of tools available to you to express an idea. And if you're lucky, you might have some support for that idea, whether it's friends, family, or funding, that type of thing. But I don't think you should be very careful about it. You should just get on with it. Okay. Because storytelling is hard enough without putting your ambivalence in front of it. People say, oh, you're called, or you gotta wanna do it. Yeah, there's that too. But I think you should have skin in the game. You should know why you're there, why you want that result, why you wanna tell that story. I do a lot of documentaries, and I also do fiction stories, comic books, all of those things. And when you're doing a documentary, that's not even your story. You have to do your best to tell a story and to get out of the way.
Yeah.
It's none of your business how maybe the audience receives it.
Mm-hmm.
You should do something that you feel passionate about, and those feelings usually translate to the audience, because it's like osmosis. You're like, boom, sending like a power signal out. And sometimes the signal's weak because you've sent it out, and you haven't found a way to translate that idea past your own thoughts very simply. And there is something about being, discussion about elegance and not just conversation, but in storytelling. And so you should look at the masters. You should read, definitely.
Yeah.
My God, please. There's a blueprint. There's a blueprint. People have done it before you.
Yeah.
And so go look at them. There's a reason why this is a long list of great storytellers. And whether you feel like you vibe with it or not, you should go see why they're called the masters. Mm-hmm. Because you could be a new master. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you want to, sort of download all of this stuff to organize your own thoughts and also to give you courage. Yeah. So, as a storyteller, most of the time I'm an actress and I'm a tool, but in somebody else's toolbox. But I wanted to be the tool maker. I wanted to be the architect and the builder. Yes. So I had to learn new skills, and that took time. I wanted to write, and I was bad at it because I was undisciplined. I didn't want to write. I wanted to sit in a room by themselves over and over again.
She says at a university.
I know. Oops. But I had to go through it.
Yes.
You know, I wanted the results. I didn't have the money to pay the writers that would do my idea. Yeah. So, you use what you have, and sometimes you gain skill sets trying to, you hustle hard.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have funding or, the type of resources other people have. And a lot of people who may be marginalized don't. But it creates an amazing experience and journey toward how you get there. So I think it's the journey and it's the destination.
Yes.
But get on with it, for God's sake.
Yes.
And because it takes a long time, many false starts. So as a storyteller, I do remind myself that, I'm not there yet. I'll be dead going, oh God, I'm not there yet. I don't think you ever arrive.
Yeah. So you're talking about passion, you're talking about purpose. Mm-hmm. And I read a quote one time that said, deep down inside, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, but very few people actually do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just easier to sit there and watch TV and eat Cheetos. I mean, why not? It takes courage and bravery to move forward. And a certain amount of imagination. Imagination is the biggest nation in the world. Use it.
Ooh, I like that.
RZA told me that. Yeah. Yo, you somebody from Wu-Tang tells you something, you gotta say it.
You gotta believe it, yes.
But, I'm sure it's not his. Yeah.
We borrow quotes all the time. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, some of us are worker bees. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It just, there's a certain amount of creativity. People say, oh, everybody has creativity in them. I guess that's true, but not everybody's willing to use it. Mm-hmm. You can go through life and live a very careful life and thoughtful life, but not necessarily, want to, break a detour, or take those risks. And then there's other people who do, and you can align yourself with those people to create a vision. I never saw any one of those people who had a big vision do it without other people. You know.
That's right.
Whether it's an activist and or a creative, an executive, any of those people, you align yourselves with people who have vision and then, help them carry it out. Use your special skill sets to see it through. Yeah. So you have to think about how you can, contribute as opposed to take credit. Yeah. That's no matter how and what you give. Yeah. And I think you'll be in alignment with why you're here. Purpose, dharma, the Hindus call it. It's a powerful thing. I'll tell you a quick story about dharma. I was in a play called the Mahabharata, which is a 9-hour play Lord, child, please, yes. A 9-hour play, and it was from the Hindu poem that's 15 times longer than the Bible. And there was an English director named Peter Brook who was fascinated and obsessed with it. And he had a great partner in a Frenchman named Jean-Claude Carrier. And they got together and they rehearsed this play for 10, 15 years, I kid you not, in India, back and forth with different actors. And eventually they came up with a script. It was 9 hours long. They got funding from the Royal Shakespeare Company, and they went and they did the play in French, and then many of the French actors learned English, and they did the play in English. And I joined the troupe at 17. I was at NYU doing liberal arts program. Was 2 weeks into it, thinking, God, did I make a mistake? I was looking out the window like, there's no way. You know how they say, look left, look right, one of these people won't be here? I just knew it was me. Especially once I got into it, I don't know why. I was like, what? How do these people know all this stuff? I don't know it. I got a call to do an audition with Peter Brook, and he sat me down and said, I'd like you to join my troupe. And I got pulled into this play, and it's an amazing play. It has 3 acts, and in the 3rd act, there's this, so it's a story of these brothers, the Pandava and the Kaurava. They're cousins. And Yudhishthira is the king, the rightful king, but he's always, there's a fight for the throne, very Games of Thrones stuff. And he goes and takes his family through this huge thing, a game of dice. He loses everything. They go into exile in the 2nd act. In the 3rd act, they are all at war. And there's Krishna, and Krishna's always talking to him about, he always has these questions. He's asking questions all over the place. And sure enough, at the beginning of the war, he stops everything and wants to ask the question. And even everyone in the audience is like, are you freaking kidding me? We've been here for how many hours? But he sits there and asks the question, and he goes, what is my dharma, my purpose? And they have a conversation about it. And I always loved this conversation. But at the end of it, Krishna says to him, resist what resists in you. Become yourself. It's a very simple thing. To say that sometimes there's so much resistance in you. That opposition is really you. The mirror is in, everything that you think is going to happen, you've kind of created in your mind. And it keeps stopping and forcing people to, have to shift there, but it's you.
It's you.
And I sometimes think of that when I say resist what resists in you, become yourself. And I want to send that out to everybody because I think that that's really a beautiful thing about Dharma and purpose.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Love it.
You're welcome. That was for free. The next one costs.
So you mentioned not doing it alone earlier, being with a group of people or being with. So can you talk a little bit about how does restless dissatisfaction or divine discontent influence your activism? Work that you do with the NAACP, the Poor People's Campaign. How does that restless dissatisfaction show up in spaces for you, particularly when you're working in groups?
Yeah, it's funny because even the idea of restless discontent or dissatisfaction, I had to think about it. So I was like, what do they mean? I hate to be discontented. Divine discontent, as Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about, so that you never accept, and just settle. I get it. But I also have to transform that into something. That may give me the action, but in order to complete the action long term, I have to be inspired. And I want to transform it into something that's passionate to me. And I think that that's important, is that whatever I'm doing, whether it's activism or filmmaking or writing, there's a long haul. And you've got to figure out what's going to carry you through. And it's all right to have discontent, but it's all right to also be happy and find some happiness in it. Everything's so friggin' hard, y'all. I don't need to tell you that. And there's so many things that'll come up that you have no idea. I do believe in the journey, the collaborative nature of the collective is very important. Please try to find people that align with you and are, we're tribal by nature, but that can also hold us back to looking within other places. You know, for people who might disagree with you but have a good point, and they expand and challenge you. It's not good if it's going to be combative like that, but sometimes you need that to break through, you know, and then you understand it years later, like, I didn't understand, I didn't like that person, I fired them, but then I realized I did my best work after that, you know. Because we need that, we need to josh them a bit. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I do think to be, it's really difficult for me to even think about discontent, because I think I live there. One of the things I don't need to cultivate is being discontented. You know, it maintains itself, I promise you. You do have to work at how you do it over long term, and not get up the next morning and forget why you were doing it, and then put it in a drawer and it gets dust, and by the time you get back to it, you were like, oh, I was on a good jag, and then you gotta harness that again. So I always say, you know, really move forward very deliberately if you can.
Well, people may know this or they may not, but you're also involved in politics to some degree. So can we talk a little bit about how that divine discontent shows up in activism and some of your work in politics?
Sure, it's your show, man, you know. You can talk about whatever you want.
So essentially I was curious about how does this concept of divine discontent inform your efforts to bring diverse representation to political offices? Because you've been on the trail and you've been active in your social media, supporting candidates and such, and so your work, your passion to make sure that our offices are diverse. Can you speak a little bit more about that? And does that come from living in Arizona? Does it come from coming, you know, to Philadelphia? What does that exactly come from, that passion?
It comes from all of that. I mean, isn't the world interesting? Why would we want a monogamous space? Like, who cares, man? I don't want that. I want the weird boogie-woogie that all that brings. Here we are in America, this amazing experiment that's set upon us. That is our burden, and it also sets us free. And one of the things that you have to just accept in this world is that, you know, in all the world, humans came together in all sorts of wonderful and horrible ways to create a republic that spoke to our diversity, our differences, but it's uniquely grounded in our humanity, and our common ground lives there. Let's tell those stories. And so, of course, you want your political offices to you know, reflect that. You want the representatives to have lived that. You know, it's tough to get, I guess, to Congress and only have lived in a homogenous space and then sit up there wondering why that, you know, people are having trouble with having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Because you need to align yourself with uncomfortable spaces so you learn how to be comfortable in them. You learn it can't hurt you. And it starts in schools, frankly. It starts in our families. Mm-hmm. School is one of the first places that you kind of get out of your little, you know, little hobble, your hobbit house, and you go on your journey like Frodo, right? He had to go on his journey. He had them big flippy feet and move on. And he got Gandalf, and he got, you know, the Raiders and the Riders and all that, and they end up creating, what was that? You know, whatever. So they put all their hands together, we're on our way. You know, and that's what you should align yourself to. Yeah. And so I was lucky enough to be mentored by people like John Lewis and Hillary Clinton, who I was her most traveled surrogate, and who I absolutely adore, because she sent me all around the world to learn about women and girls. Everywhere, Africa, all around America, to speak for her, to debate people. I had to learn her record. I learned it from Chelsea by campaigning with Chelsea and President Clinton. Very smart people, but I also learned retail politics, how to touch hands, how to listen to people. Spent a lot of time listening, not talking, and then sort of digesting that, processing it, and then saying, how does that speak to me? How can I speak for them through me, through my experience? And then suddenly it becomes your experience. Yeah. And there's all these asks and the requests that people want and expect. They just really want to be seen. They want to know that you've touched them and they feel like they can trust you at least a little bit longer to go on the journey. And that's difficult because people are so jaded nowadays, so willing to believe that everyone is corrupt. That's not freaking true. There are people working all around the world in offices and in government offices and all around for our greater good every day. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the trash picked up, the lights go off, you know, the water. I mean, it's amazing. And then there's other people who are corrupt, who can suck the oxygen out of a room and get all the press. But we can't believe that the greater good is like that. And that's why John Lewis is so important when he says, get into trouble, good trouble, you know, necessary trouble. That's what he has, because he went down to desegregate the lunch counters with black and white people who died and gave their blood. And so we have to remember those examples and really, you know, create challenges for ourselves to not live in this wind tunnel. And you know it when you start to repeat yourself over and over again. I do it all the time, you know, and then I realize, you know, Erika, you're gonna have to change the channel, for God's sake. I can't live there and be an expressive person. So I think that we are all expressing ourselves all the time in an idea. And I think of this, you know, and I like to say, and don't think I'm crazy, that this is an illusion, man. This is an illusion. Race is an illusion, you know? But it's very real for us to have these different experiences to make us more human being. And I think that I live in a world as an actress that's what I'm here for, is to learn how to be more human.
So Dr. King's message of divine discontent is timeless. How do you see this legacy continuing in today's social justice movements? And for those in the audience, for those who are streaming, how can modern activists draw from this principle to sustain their fight against systemic inequalities? What advice do you have?
Well, I say this all, haul ass. Haul ass. Get on with it. You know, don't overthink it. Do something, as Michelle Obama says. Do something. Put pen to paper. You know, do that again. Get with someone who can translate into a different language. And the language could be the language of animation. There's different ways to speak to people. Sound, just with sound, with no sound, with pen and ink. It's amazing what you can do. Young activists, you know what? Suck it up, man. Life is disappointing, but don't get discouraged. And don't stop just because you did one thing. Ooh, I sent that text. Boom, I posted it. Ow! Are you kidding? There's a long road, man.
Yeah, it is.
And they weren't sending texts back in the day. You know, if you look at Martin Luther King and John Lewis and how young they were when they became activists and stayed activists, they spent time learning nonviolence from Reverend Lawson, who was young too. And he had learned it and it was inspired by the Ghanaian. God help me, y'all know him. Well, they're Ghana too, but Gandhi as well. But the Ghanaian, you know, he was a revolutionary as well. But yeah, Gandhi as well. Gandhi. They prepared themselves for the struggle, and there was no way they could probably prepare themselves for what was really out there. But their assumption was that it wasn't going to be easy because it hadn't been. And they had already gone through and heard the stories of Reconstruction from their parents who had been enslaved. And I think right now we're all very segregated in our minds and sometime in our spaces, many times in our spaces, especially education-wise. And it's really glorious, by the way, to be here and see this here. That when everybody's pulling away from diversity, equity, and inclusion, here's the University of Michigan saying, no, we're going to fall forward. Wonderful. And I was talking to your provost, Macaulay, and she said it's not easy, and I said, for sure. But you give people courage. You show them the blueprint and the way to do it. And you stand up for your students to say, this is what we stand for. And this is what it looks like in hard times. And we find a way out of no way. And I'm grateful for their example. But you also have to look at the women. Ida B. Wells, all these wonderful people. Fannie Lou Hamer. You know, Bennett College is a college, and bless them, they gave me a doctorate.
Dr. Alexander.
My mother was so happy, Lord have mercy. She said it was okay for me to drop out of NYU, and I never went back, you know, to complete anything. And I know she wanted me to be in academia. She's an early childhood educator and a singer, an opera singer, and all of that. But when she was there at 82 years old to see me walk up that aisle, and you know, and I just was like, whew, you know, cried like a baby. What was I saying? But yeah, Fannie Lou Hamer and all of these people. You know, Bennett College, it's an amazing thing that these women helped strategize the lunch counter strategy. But I was talking to Suzanne Walsh, who's the president, and she said, but you know, the women never got the credit because the men ran down and got pictures taken and all that and whatever. And she said, I just want to do whatever we do with you, because they helped us. We did a reparations tour in North Carolina of all the HBCUs and did a debate tour, like the Baldwin-Buckley debate. And we would like credit. And I said, absolutely. But you shouldn't have to ask for that.
Right.
You know, but they did. And I learned something about Bennett, you know, those women. And so study history and learn also to correct and don't do and recreate things that were bad behavior. It's not necessary. Like I said, seek to contribute, not take credit. You'll get your credit if you do well. The people who know you did it are the ones that need to know. What you leave is your legacy, and that belongs to no one. That belongs to time and history. It's infinite. Seek to be a part of that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Dr. Alexander.
Okay.
As a multi-hyphenated professional, what challenges have you witnessed? Having various career experiences both in and outside of the entertainment industry, has your desire to try new things been met with opposition? Because I talk with people every day who want to make a pivot, who want to change or do something different or reinvent themselves. But as women, as people of color, it's often met with opposition. So starting as an actress, but now having this long resume, what did those multiple pivots look like for you?
Multiple pivots, I guess it's like reinvention. To me, it looked like Tuesday.
Not Tuesday.
Well, as I'm an actress, I'm a shapeshifter, to be clear.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're a marginalized person, you better become one.
Yes.
Because you're gonna have to learn a lot of different skill sets in order to get the things you want done. I'm not an anomaly. That's just what it is. I saw my mother, you know, these two orphans to pay the rent. We would clean office buildings and army barracks and those types of things. And they sold Amway, and my mother was a caterer, and you know, remember Amway? You know, everything. Are you kidding? They were everything. And then they also would go and then preach on Sundays and Wednesdays and whatever. And then she would go to NAU and take her vocal lessons because she wanted to stay in shape, you know, for this Marian Anderson life that she wasn't going to have, but she thought would, you know, at least keep a person who was, you know, in the drudgery of it, you know, her eyes lifted towards something that gave her happiness. That's what it is. You know, some people are able to get a career that can sustain them for a long time and stay there. That's wonderful. That's really a gift. That's not me. I get hired for a very brief time. Sometimes, you know, American Fiction, that film, we were... Thank you. It was 23-day shoot.
Oh, wow.
And I worked maybe 11 of those days, and then Jeffrey every one of those days. And then I guess other than Jeffrey, I was the person who worked the most on set. Issa Rae came in, and she was there 2 days. Tracy Ellis Ross was there for 2 days. Spoiler alert, I won't tell what happens if you haven't seen it. There's a reason why Tracy was there a little less. But,
I saw it, but I won't tell,
But I don't stay places a long time, you know, so I've got to get things done. Same with Get Out, which was like a 23-day shoot.
Yes.
I just did a movie with Alicia Harris, amazing movie called Is God Is, based on her play. That was a 23-day shoot. They're not giving a lot of resources to make these films. That's what Cord said in his acceptance speech as the Oscar, Cord Jefferson. He said, you know, you're making these huge movies for $200 and $300 million. You know how many $5 million movies you can make with that? $10 million movies you can make? Make more of those things, you know? Put those resources elsewhere so we can have our new Shakespeares and our new Toni Morrisons and all that come to the fore. Give them an opportunity to shine. But I'm not here I'm not here for a long time, here for a lean time. So get it done. And I'm grateful for the times that I might have been longer on set. Those are the living singles where I've got 5 years. You get to know the people. But we were doing a play a week, to be clear. We had 4 days to learn a play, and then on Thursday, 2 audiences came in, and we filmed it in front of a live audience, and then the next day, we started a new play. And we had every 4th week off. And we did 26 episodes a year, 26, 27. Nowadays, they do 9 or 10, and they're complaining.
That's right, yeah.
I was on Wu-Tang, and we're doing 9 episodes.
Yeah.
And I love Ashton Sanders, so if you see this, Ashton, I love you. Yeah, it's really messed up. I didn't know I'd have to be on set this long. I'm like, really? 9 episodes? I'm like, this is like a vacation for me, man. I mean, this is awesome. You know, we worked starting in August and finished like, you know, in April, had a few months off and then started again. It was like running this major marathon, and that was the good old days, you know, but it really made you, you know, your memory was like no joke.
Yeah,
Kim Fields, who has a, you know, a photographic memory, big props to her. I know why, because as a child, she was just memorizing everything, facts of life and all these things. She also was a prodigy, brilliant. So, yeah, I don't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Somebody help me out. Leaky gut. Leaky gut is also leaky mouth.
You were talking about the pivot and
pivot.
shape-shifting.
Yeah, shifting.
Yeah.
Shape-shifting. Be a shape-shifter. Do that. Yeah. It's also fun, too. Yeah. You know, go do something that you haven't done before. You want to swim, go learn how to swim, learn another language. Please learn how to communicate with other people. Learning languages. Yeah. Je parle français un petit peu. That's all I know. Yeah. Don't ask anything. But I plan to get fluent before I, you know, kick the bucket. So. Yeah, wish me luck.
Yeah. Well, you talked about some of your past projects, but looking ahead, what are some projects and initiatives you're most excited about? Some that maybe embody divine discontent or restless dissatisfaction. What's ahead for you? What's next?
Well, one of them is working with Bennett College.
Okay.
They're a beautiful college. There's only 200 students. They're at risk. Yeah. It's not doing well. So I started thinking, you know, what could it be? You know, in this new age, there's so many things that are shifting. And I thought maybe, you know, working together and in alignment, it could become something else where it could be a hub for tech and analysis and research, like an Ida B. Wells place, to go out and get real data and then bring that in and have some sort of ownership and IP to that.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, because they gotta find a way to be self-sustainable too. you know, you just can't think of an idea that takes money and you've got to find a way to make profit, but also that it's not just profitable to keep the school going, but also it's profitable for the students. They learn a skill set that otherwise is very necessary in this world. And they also learn how to evaluate and look at ideas and translate their community's thoughts into data. You know, W.E.B. Du Bois did that at the World's Fair. He thought that black people would not be taken seriously and that unless they came with some data. And so he did it, and there's that great book. You can see they did it with crayons and, you know, figured out a way to discuss it. And Ida B. Wells went down famously to the South to make sure she got a real record of how many people were being lynched and got those stories. Imagine, that's powerful. Data. So I think that we need to find and do, and so if you're interested in something like that, please join us. It's up to us to save these institutions. The Philadelphia High School for Girls is where I went. And it is also now, it was the best, who's out there clapping? Somebody clapping? You know about it? But anyway, maybe that's in Philly. It used to be the best high school in, public high school for girls in Philadelphia, that and Central. I went back and it was lovely. It had about 300 students. That's down from like 1,200 when I was there. It's failing, it's at risk. They need computers, they need everything. That could be the great pipeline to go to Bennett, to find those places where people you know, need that, create a pipeline, create a discussion with how we can move them out into the world and into larger universities and into discussions where they can, you know, build upon that. There's a global conversation that's happening right now that I'd like to do. That's an initiative. And to, what's a conversation now with the new artists? You know, we have Afrobeats and Koreans and Japanese and you know, New Zealand and all sorts of things. How can we talk to our neighbors and make common cause with them? You know, as women, one of the great initiatives is to find more protections for ourselves. You find protection if you tell stories. If you want to gain leverage and power, you have to show people an example of what it looks like so they know it won't eat them. A female leader will not eat you. You'll be all right. So tell that story. Find a way to give us an example of it. We had plenty of examples before Barack Obama came there. You know, even whether it was the great comedian Richard Pryor joking about it, and but also black men in power to sort of, you know, project onto. We're going to need more of those examples because right now there's patriarchy and there's racism and classism and all those things acting upon us all the time. And you can see it when it's time to vote, what people are really thinking. But that's not the time to discuss it. You need to discuss it in the in-between time, in the meantime. And in the meantime, we better get out there. And also, I'd like to mention Reverend Barber, who's a mentor of mine with the Poor People's Campaign. You know, famously, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had created the Poor People's Campaign, and he wanted to align with the janitors and those people, but he wanted to do fusion politics. He thought, you know what? If we don't get together, black whites, poor whites, women, you know, all the minority cultures and the people who are aligned in the same, you know, want the same thing, we'll never get anything done. But if we do, we'll have a power base that's so strong, it'll be unbreakable because we now are voting our interests. And how do you corrupt that? By forcing the issue of what divides us as opposed to what unites us. Like as if a tan matters, or nappy hair is straight, or you have a vagina and I have a penis. Sometimes I wish I had a penis, because I would be so powerful. But anyway, sorry. I digress. But to have these sort of petty things to talk about as opposed to what unites us. You know, which really is, what do you want to get done? What do you want to see for your children? What do you want to see for the world? How do you want it done? Do you want it done with some kind of integrity?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's do that, because it's gonna be hard. So let's figure out a way to do it. And let's figure out a way to get working people a living wage, one fair wage.
Yeah.
You know, that's real. So I'm aligning with Reverend Barber, and he's doing a really great thing. He's gonna be going and teaching people through storytelling how to have discernment, because we realize that through storytelling, we are also giving away our minds. Mm-hmm. We're absolutely being, just, oh, it said it, I say it. Really? Mm. You're not going to interrogate that?
Yeah.
You're not gonna look it up to make sure? You're not gonna have a discussion? No. And then the algorithm feeds you more of it, and then you're on it. I know, because I ride all the time like a sled. I'd be like, woo. But I also know that I come from maybe the last generation that remembers that when this didn't exist.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And we have to go to encyclopedia, look things up.
Yes.
The thing is nice that encyclopedia, you look it up, but the thing is, you see other things in it.
Yes, yes.
And that has a way of affecting you. Mm-hmm. And you can be effective now if you know more, by accident even. And so I'm into that. We're doing a film at Color Farm. My founder is Ben Arnon, and we've been doing it for 7 years, about Diane Carroll.
Oh, wow.
Called Between Starshine and Clay, with her daughter. Okay. And she wants to talk about one of a movie star of color. Yeah. This woman, Diane Carroll, who created, Dominique Devereaux.
Yes.
There you go. And just a badass. But what she was up against? She says that she didn't know her own mother's hair texture till she was dying. Mm-hmm. Her mother called her forward, she had dementia, and she lifted her care worker, had washed her hair and had it in a turban, and she called Suzanne K, and she said, here, and she lifted it and showed her kitchen.
Oh, wow.
That's deep. Mm-hmm. Like that was a secret, mm-hmm. that my hair is not naturally straight. Mm-hmm. That has curl in it.
Yeah, wow.
But how many of those women lost their edges to lie? Mm-hmm. Eartha Kitt, lie, that we wouldn't be accepted. So Maxine Shaw steps into that space, where she's coming with her braids. Yes. Coiffed. But she would not be there if I had not seen Whoopi Goldberg and Jumping Jack Flash. Yes. Check it out, take a look. Yes. Take a look at her look. And I had worked with her on Long Walk Home, where she played my mother. Yeah. I'm just grateful for all of those things that I've learned with those people. But enough said.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, I do want to say this. That's what I wanted to talk about, the Maxine Shaw effect. So there's this thing called the Maxine Shaw effect that over the years, it's been 30 years, last year's 30 years, that the character, thank you. It was 30 years that the character and that the show existed. And over the years, it was in syndication, and there's been very few years, once it went into syndication, that it was out of syndication. It's one of the most syndicated shows in the world, mm-hmm. so it's got new people that dig it. That many of these amazing women, especially, but men too, came and said that they'd gone to law school or gone into leadership positions, politics, because of Maxine Shaw, and the example, and them being inspired to do their aspiration, which I'm sure was already in them because they were natural leaders. And these are people like Stacey Abrams and Ayanna Pressley and Marilyn Mosby and Mayor de Blasio and his wife. And when Mayor de Blasio, I was looking at him like, are you kidding? He's like, no, we're serious. And I said, I gotta tape this. And he let me. He let me because, it's a wonderful thing. But we decided to put some research data into it. And we came up with something called the Maxine Shaw effect, and found out that it wasn't just anecdotal, it was real, and it was massive. And it was the type of thing that we didn't want to keep to ourselves. It wasn't like patting us on the back. It was just saying, well, what is it about leaders, those things that they might have resonated about leadership? And can we teach these leadership skills to middle school, high school, and early college? You may not want to be a lawyer, but you can use those skills anywhere. Yeah. And how do you communicate strength, but also lay back enough to listen, to have empathy, which he both had. She wasn't very sentimental, but she was fair.
Yeah.
And you felt that she was for you. Yeah. And I loved also that she came through, you know, a lens of non-religiosity. You know, up until that point, women had always had to not, you know, look like hoes. You know, if you had sex. Ask Max if she cared. She had sex unapologetically. And didn't necessarily ride the Maverick, baby. and as a woman, we needed those women who threw their bras off in the 70s to tell us we could. You know, and didn't have to apologize for wanting sex, but not necessarily the whole relationship. Yeah, it brings complications in, you know, especially now where people just hook up online. But that was hers. That was her thing, and you could feel it coming through and oozing. So I'm grateful for that. So look at the MaxineShawEffect.com and the leadership program, and we're wanting to be in. You know, with curriculum nowadays, you can't necessarily go in schools, but after-school programs, people can, you know, use it and that type of a thing, and we're looking to expand on that. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm using that data.
Amazing. Well, we have to bring our conversation to a close.
Damn.
But in doing so, please join me in welcoming back Alexander Veal, who will provide information on where to find additional MLK events across campus and introduce this program's closing performance. So let's give Dr. Alexander another round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you. Beautiful.
See y'all. Thank you so much. Excellent. Wonderful. I want to give, just once again, thank Miss Alexander and Dr. Watkins, just all the grace, and thank them so much for coming to speak with us today. They've laid such a strong foundation for all the many events and numerous speaker events and activities on our campus as part of the University of Michigan's annual MLK Symposium that will take place today and in the future. I encourage everyone strongly and personally to participate in these as much as possible. You can find more events just like these in your booklet or by visiting online mlk.umich.edu. And now I'm pleased to introduce our closing performance featuring Cherise Morris. Cherise is an award-winning writer, interdisciplinary artist, and ritualist born and raised in rural Virginia and based in Detroit, Michigan. Her interdisciplinary performance work and writings have been recognized by the Foundation for Contemporary Art, Poets and Writers, and the Knight Foundation, among many others. Merging experimental writing, poetry, and prayer with performance, movement, sound, and ritual practices, Morris's work creates transformative spaces that invite communities to explore, imagine, and continue the infinite work of individual healing and collective transformation. Her essays have been twice recognized as notable works of literary nonfiction in the Best American Essay Series 2018 and 2019, and have also been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. She is a 2019 Kresge Fellow. Her debut book, The Cosmic Matter of Black Lives, was awarded the 2024 Global Black Women's Nonfiction Manuscript Prize and is also forthcoming in the coming year. Please kindly join me in welcoming Cherise Morris.
Maybe this story began with the crack of thunder and the splendor of downpour, in the hurricane, when my mother told me storms carry songs from heaven, in the rustling leaves and the twirl of baby's legs fussing with spirits who had come down to earth to impart this wisdom. Maybe this story began at the factory barracks, with the friction of limbs laboring to conjure warmth from the coldness of steel. The same limbs, tired and weary, went home to tend backyard gardens and cradle sweet children. Maybe this story began at the edge of the Detroit River, as the wind caressed my shoulders and the water sat still, and I read plaques honoring the freedom found in the midnight city, imagining how the same wind and water witnessed those emancipatory journeys. Maybe this story began with the kiss of sun, the sharp end of a whip lashing hot, rocky earth where my ancestors bent at the waist picking tobacco in otherwise bucolic fields, where they sucked the blood cotton spikes nipped from their fingers, where they dreamed of homes they'd already forgotten and a freedom they'd never know in living. Maybe it began with the shadow cast at Point Comfort, where the first kidnapped Africans stolen from Spanish cargo ships arrived in chains to this strange, unfamiliar, uninviting terrain. Maybe this story began, moreover, in the toil of rough fingertips, carving totems to our deities, sifting seeds from the harvest, pulling bones from the chicken, making magic unburdened. Maybe it began in the chant of the drum at the banks of the Oshun River, or by the side of the soul tree giving life to the queen mothers, or by the side of the blazing fire with the whistle of the Nganga, where we asked spirit to cool its wrath and prayed for brighter days and better futures, for the drought to go away, for the harvest to be bountiful. Wherever its origin, it's here, now, in this invocation and elevation. To those who died trying, and those who at times tried to die, we carry you with us. Just as we are of the blood and bones and skin and substance of our ancestors' deepest pain, we are also of the blood and bone and skin and substance of our ancestors' greatest joy. But we are so much more than matter to be made into meaning. We are of spirit, of the water's unending currents and the fire's eternal light, of the earth's boundless bounty and the air's transcendent infinity. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know, couldn't see, would never understand we were not just the seeds it takes to sprout, but the light and the water and the wind necessary for all creation. We were everything it took to bring forth new life. We do not stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, those elevated and those working towards ascension alike. No, we carry them with us and within us, as the currents of candor, as the flame of rebellion, as the substance of living, as the breeze of the ephemeral. We carry them with us, as the root of our freedom, the origin of our love, the one home no person or their hatred could ever undo. From whence we came, God was the water and the fire, the earth and the air. We once knew God as reflection, energy as cyclical, all life as interconnected. We understood the God in us was the same energy creating the great rivers to sustain all life, was the same energy creating the fires near and distant, keeping us alive, was the same energy creating the soil and the trees and the plants we all need to survive, was the same energy creating the great winds which open us to change, was the same energy existing within you and me, the same. And if all life is energy and all energy returns to life, then the same power sculpting our faces also etched great mountains from stone, the same power bearing life as the waters of our birth also carved rivers through rock, the same power shining light through our ancestors dead and gone, illuminated stars lighting our journeys home and to freedom. And somewhere in this matrix, in these magnificent landscapes and the miracle of the natural world, are remnants of our ancestors in spirit and in shadow. Dwelling somewhere in this infinite basin of matter and being lies vast pools of ancestral knowledge and wisdom. There is something beyond portent. There are prophecies of promise among foreboding omens. Know this, our story will not end in calamity. Somewhere along the chaos and catastrophe of climates in crisis and Black folks' systemic proximity to them exists a space of possibility, an emergent hope seeding freedom. Somewhere in the margins and hinterlands to which we've been relegated, there is an opening, a sliver, enough for us to carve out new worlds, visions of liberation and living and loving, separate and apart from, over and beyond the violence of systems that have desecrated and defiled people and the God of this earth. But y'all know it better than I do, this ancestral wisdom, the truth of our spirit. The souls of Black folks have always been too mighty to contain, so today we speak honor upon your names. We speak love and joy and peace over our ancestors, those who knew better and those still trying to figure it out. We speak a new path forward for them and us and all those on this earthly plane. From the sandy shores of West Africa to the soot and dust of the American South and the concrete and asphalt of the passageway north, we call on freedom for them and us the same. To those who we knew and those we only heard of, in old wise tales from storied lives, to those whom the constraints of conscious memory have eluded, and those whose legacies live on in photographs and keepsakes of eras bygone, we feel you in our every moment. We live in your honor. We live in your grace and beauty as tribute to the earth and its blessings abounding. We claim you and your gifts. We are grateful for our inheritance, for the pain we've still got to ease, and the jubilance which lives on. We thank you. Our healing is a monument to your trials. Our blessings are tribute to your triumphs. You are the reason we breathe, we fight, we laugh, we dance, we play, we make, we believe, we dream. We are reborn not only in your image, but of your substance, your sacrifices, your struggles, your sacredness. With this prayer, we venerate you in all your divine glory and all your human fallibility. You will guide our revolutions, our reimaginings, our reconnecting with the infiniteness of ourselves and the divinity of our glorious, loving, giving planet. From our first revelation to our final restoration, you gave us life, and we share this life with you. To those whose names we own and those whose names we'll never know, if we were made in the image of God and so too created in yours, then we are all holy, a holy which can never be contained. You are our evolution, our greatest warriors and fiercest protectors, the ground we walk on, the heavens we fly, the waters we surrender to, the flames carrying us forward into freedom. We thank you. We love you. We got y'all. Amen. Ashe.
As constant as the water flows, as steady as the fire burns, as resolute as the earth sits beneath my feet, as sure as the air is to always wander, with this faith we claim ourselves as our freedom. We come home to our inheritance, to live and love and feel and dream and be free. If the cycles of this earth teach us anything, let it be that even as the water has been poisoned and the fire has been misused and the earth has been abused and the air has been tainted, no person, no concept, no construct can undo the blessings of this life. No person, no system, no framework can undo the source of life within. The same power creating the great rivers to sustain all life was the same power creating the fires near and distant, keeping us alive, was the same power creating the soil and the plants and the trees we all need to survive, was the same power creating the great winds which open us to change, was the same power existing within you and me, the same. We come back to the rhythms of this earth. We come back to the boundlessness of all we are. We come back to our inheritance, our ancestral wisdom, and once again come to know ourselves as having the power to make change happen, as existing as the portal to God, as being the cycle of transformation. Let us find the wings to fly. Let the trees which sprout from our flesh and bone exist forever. Let the fires which hold us carry the warmth of the sun. Let the waters which birthed us open us all to transform. And let us inherit this earth and build a different world, a world where we are free to be and believe, where give and take is no longer a burden, but a grace, where we come back to the boundlessness of all that we are. Let us inherit this earth and build a different world, a world of love, not hatred, a world of hope, not despair, a world where we exist in the fullness of all we have been, could be, might become. Let us transform and transcend. Let us revolt and rebuild. Let us come back home to a freedom we've never known, but always held within. Today, especially, of all days, I think collectively we find ourselves at another crossroads moment in our history as people. And I want us to center in the fact that we have all the tools we need to move through this moment as our ancestors have moved through all the moments that came before this. If we think of the wisdom that Dr. King, among so many other freedom fighters, left us with, it is that we are resilient more than anything. Think about how many times we have come to what seems like the end of the world and we have surpassed it. As humans, that is what we are called to do in this moment once again, and we have those tools. So, some of you are being passed objects in the audience. You will receive a bowl of water and a vessel of water and a bowl of sand. And as part of the interactive component of this work, there's always space for a ritual that you are free to participate in. If you choose to, you also do not have to participate, but if you would like to participate, you're going to pour a libation and pass that libation forward to your neighbor. We are building an energy of resilience. We are taking time to focus on our ancestral wisdoms, to think about all of the life that our life exists upon today, right? All of the lessons and joy and wisdom that we can cultivate, that we can harness, and that we can bring forward in this moment. So take a time when you receive the bowl of sand and the vessel of water to internally say any prayers, intentions, affirmations, ask any questions that you want to send to the energy that is holding you up, whatever that may be to you at this moment. And to seal that, you're going to take the water and just put a little drop into the sand. And as we move the sand throughout the audience, you'll notice that it gets heavier with the prayers and intentions and wishes of all of your community members here, those who you know, those who you may not know. But take a moment, if you feel called to, eventually a vessel will make its way over to you. Sit with that for as long as possible. And if you are passing it forward to a neighbor, especially someone who you do not know, take time, connect with one another, make eye contact, say hello. Thank you all so much for being in this space, for bringing your energy this morning. Thank you to those of you who want to participate in this ritual, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.